The Cuban Revolution, spanning from 1953 to 1959, was a transformative period of political and social upheaval in Cuba. Led by Fidel Castro, along with Che Guevara and other rebels, the revolution aimed to topple the authoritarian regime of President Fulgencio Batista and establish a socialist state. The revolution began with an unsuccessful attack on the Moncada barracks in 1953, led by Castro and his followers. Although the assault failed, it marked a turning point in the struggle against Batista's government and served as a rallying cry for the revolutionary movement. Following the attack, Castro and his brother Raúl were imprisoned but were later released as part of a political amnesty. Castro and his supporters, organized as the 26th of July movement, continued their revolutionary activities in the Sierra Maestra Mountains. They conducted guerrilla warfare, gaining support from the Cuban peasantry and attracting a growing number of fighters to their cause. Over time, their military successes and popular appeal gradually eroded Batista's control. In 1958, a general strike paralyzed the country, and Batista's army suffered significant losses. Sensing the deteriorating situation, Batista fled the country on January 1, 1959, and Castro's forces marched into Havana, the capital of Cuba. With the triumph of the revolution, Castro assumed power as the Prime Minister of Cuba. The relationship between the United States and Cuba prior to the revolution was complex. The U.S. had substantial economic and political interests in Cuba, including investments in industries like tourism, sugar, and casinos. American companies, as well as organized crime syndicates, had established a strong presence in Cuba, particularly in Havana. These ties between U.S. interests and the Batista regime led to a perception among the Cuban population that the United States supported a corrupt and repressive government. U.S. involvement in Cuba before the revolution included support for Batista's regime. The American government provided military aid and economic assistance, viewing Batista as a stable ally against the spread of communism. This support fueled anti-American sentiment among the Cuban revolutionaries, who perceived it as an endorsement of the oppressive regime they sought to overthrow. After the revolution, relations between the United States and Cuba deteriorated rapidly. The new Cuban government implemented a series of socialist policies, including the nationalization of American-owned businesses and properties. In response, the U.S. imposed economic sanctions and eventually established a comprehensive trade embargo on Cuba. These measures, which have remained in place for decades, have significantly impacted Cuba's economy and its relations with other countries.